Okay, well, I'm here at the HQ of Stop Hate UK, and I'm joined with Rose and James. And James is his position is part of an advocacy to try to stamp out hate crime, and obviously Rose is the CEO of Stop Hate UK. So it's a real pleasure to be here, as I'm the ambassador for it as well. And it was such an honour and privilege to be asked a couple of years ago now. And I thought, whilst I'm hand cycling around the UK, I'll stop off here at Leeds and speak to both James and Rose. So, hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for coming.
No, it's a real pleasure. Rose, first of all, how long have you been working for Stop Hate UK?
Well, I joined the organisation in January 2006, but we weren't actually called Stop Hate UK then. We were called Leeds Racial Harassment Project.
Right.
So we dealt with victims of racism in Leeds. So when I joined in 2006, a number of things were going on, which led in 2007 us renaming as Stop Hate UK, and in that period moving to help people experiencing hate crime across all the sort of identity strands. So for whatever reason they were being targeted, and to gradually start working across the UK.
Right, and James, what about yourself?
So I've been with Stop Hate UK for just over a year now.
Right.
But I've been working with victims of hate crime for about 4 or 5 years, kind of on and off. Used to work specifically around supporting people with learning disabilities who've been victims of hate crime and discrimination.
Wow, wow. So tell me about your new role now then, this advocacy role.
So I'm a hate crime advocate. So basically it means working in certain parts of the country and across our learning disability service, following up with callers to our helpline, making sure that we're putting them in touch with the right agencies, they're getting the right support and the right information, they're aware of all their options and their rights, and they kind of understand the process and the outcomes they're looking for. So yeah, I do that.
Right.
Try and do it as well as I can, but it's basically having more conversations with victims of hate incidents and hate crimes.
Wow, I think that's really, really important as well. As a victim myself, I wanted to isolate myself. And I didn't go out of the house for 4 months after being called cripple on the street and things like this. When the first time I brain hemorrhage, and it's awful that the feeling it was devastating to myself. I just went home, I cried and cried. I was so raw being newly disabled, and but that person, thought it was really, really funny to actually drive past and call me cripple, call me spastic and things like this. And it's so important, these phone lines that you have, I think it's really, really important, because you can actually call someone from your own home, but also as well, I think maybe with an issue of underreporting of hate crime is because they don't want the police on the doorstep where everyone else can see the police going into your home. Yeah. So this phone line, it completely, it gets rid of all that, doesn't it? And it's in the safe home where they can give you a call and have a chat. Do you know how many phone calls you normally get per year or per week?
Well, yeah, it's about 2,000 or 3,000 connections, because people can do more than phone. They can come onto online chat, they can report by text. We've now got a British Sign Language service, and so they can send an email. There's 8 different ways to access the service. So we're about 2,000 to 3,000 connections a year.
And every single connection, there's another person on the other end of that connection. So there's someone on the other end of the phone. There's someone answering the web chat.
Wow. So it's a live person.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. 24 hours a day, every day of the year, and that's what makes us unique.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Most of the people have iPhones now, or iPads, or things like this. So especially the kids, the youth, the younger ones. And I've been visiting 500 schools. I've spoken to over 50,000 children this year, and a lot of them who are suffering from bullying and stigma and hate crime are in the 11 to 16 bracket in a lot of the times, so especially in schools. It can be really, really tough. Where I was at school, bullying and hate crime was left at the gate, because you went home and then you could just relax. And then, but now, because of the internet, the powers of Facebook and social media, you can be 10,000 miles away and still get bullied online, can't you? So I think having that online presence, I think, is absolutely fantastic.
I mean, our real challenge is being able to get to people to explain what hate crime is, and someone actually will take it seriously. So an awful lot of people are experiencing the things that you've described, but for many of them, they don't even get as far as thinking, I don't want to talk to the police. They don't even know that someone will take it seriously. And so it's really just getting people to talk about their experiences and not tell someone, but tell the right person who's going to record it and help you do the right thing to stop it.
Yeah, most definitely. It's so important. And I've been working with the Commissioner of Police regarding the reporting of hate crime, because obviously it's very underreported, and it is part of my school campaign is to talk to children and the education of what is a hate crime, and not only what is a hate crime, but the ramifications of that, and also as well the effects it has on its victims. And I tell stories about that, and about a lady I went to see in the Isle of Man, and her daughter hung herself because she had over 200 Facebook posts of all negative bullying. It was a community bullying, and her mother knew nothing about it. And slowly but surely, Caitlin isolated herself. She remained in her bedroom. She started self-harming, taking medications and things like this, and just had enough. And she was 19 as well, and it happens, doesn't
Absolutely.
it?
It's that risk of escalation that you've just described, that people think, oh, it's just a bit of name calling, but it's the impact it can have on you as an individual. But also, it's also what the concern is about the perpetrator getting more confident. So some of the really high-profile sort of murders and deaths, as you've described, they don't just start one day. They've come through that sort of escalation sort of pattern, and they can jump. It can jump from name calling to death. It doesn't necessarily go through all the stages. So we want to get to talk to people as early on as we can, in the hope that we can either kind of stop it or give them the right sort of support so they are better able to deal with what's happening. But obviously the aim is to get it stopped.
Sure. Let me ask you a question. It's an open question. It's quite difficult to answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you think we can do to stop hate crime? What do you think we could do?
That's such a difficult question.
It is.
Yeah.
I think reporting is one of the biggest things that we always talk to people about, is that the need to report your incidents and incidents that you witness. I think that's one of the things that the helpline and the ways that we have of contacting us are able to do. It's really accessible for people to just pick up a phone, report the incident, send an email, report something. I think that's the biggest one. How we go about doing that, I think it needs to be more kind of in the public domain, like conversations about hate crime and discrimination and hate incidents and bullying. There's a lot of great organisations out there supporting victims of hate crime and raising awareness of it, but we need it to be it's everybody's business.
Most definitely.
And discrimination is happens on a daily basis. So I would challenge people really is to think about their own behaviours and how sometimes we allow things to happen because we don't challenge them, or because we say something that affects another group of people, which then seems to give credence to a group to be violent with them. So I think we all need to take more responsibility and to realise how damaging it can be. It can result in death through suicide or through murder, but it actually damages people on a daily basis. So, and describing not wanting to go out, we hear of mothers who won't take their children to nursery because they're worried about the name calling on the way. So until as a society we take it as seriously as other forms of abusive behaviour, we're not going to make a difference. So that's kind of part of our challenge. But I do think people need to really think very carefully about their own behaviour and actions. And if you don't expect to be victimised because of who you are, don't then allow somebody else to be victimised because of who they are. And actually, if we all start to express our own identity and realise that the freedom we might have with that, or the protection that we should have, why don't we allow it to somebody else? So I think it is a personal thing, but it's also something for society to take seriously.
Most definitely. I think the psychological damage in itself,
Absolutely.
it's not just a physical, it's a psychological damage, you know, could be a lot worse than the physical side.
Absolutely. All sort of research will show that the more serious emotional damage will occur when someone is targeted because of their identity, because you don't escape your identity, that's who you are.
So what would you say to people out there who are going to look at this video and who, you know, have seen my campaign and, you know, are thinking, or they're being bullied, or it's a hate crime incident? What would you say to them?
Make sure that you speak to an appropriate agency who can help you. So you might want to report it directly to the police and to say, I think I'm being targeted because of my identity, therefore I want it to be treated as a hate crime. Contact an independent organisation such as ourselves. You know, you can generally find on the internet a local organisation, but if you look at our website, you'll see where we operate. And just make sure that you actually get it reported and that it is recorded, because sometimes people think they're reporting but it's not getting recorded, and that's why you need to emphasise that you consider it to be a hate crime.
Yeah, I've been working with the police, and what they do, because I've asked this question myself, is, you know, if someone reports a hate crime to you, how do you differentiate a normal crime to a hate crime? And what they've said is, if you report it as a hate crime, they put H next to it, and it goes into a separate unit who then investigate it. But a lot of people don't actually say, oh, I think it's
Absolutely,
a hate crime.
it's very hard.
You know, it is, isn't it? And I think this is where, you know, the education side of, you know, this is what you need to do. You know, on my website has your details as well, and it's just about, you know, we have safer places on there as well as other organisations with people who are being bullied and with hate crime. But it is, if anyone thinks that it is a hate crime, you know, say that.
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
you know, say that, and just let the police know. And, you know, any could possibly may not be,
we,
but at
we
least
can
you said
change
it.
that. You know, sometimes people haven't reported it as that, but with our help, we can actually get that changed, because it is very difficult to say that, and still some people are still challenged, but you should not be challenged. If you think it's a hate crime, then it should be treated as such until such time as you can.
And also
it isn't.
And also, the police need to feel confident in actually asking people as well. If they don't actually come out and say this is a hate crime, you know, actually, do you feel, is there any particular reason you've been targeted? Or, you know, and that's where the police, you know, have a responsibility as well to have an understanding of hate crime and the impact it can have on people.
It seems that often people don't have the agencies don't have the confidence to say to someone, why have you been targeted, or why do you think you've been targeted? And we would always say that's just a conversation. You don't have to be picking out some actual characteristic of somebody, because that's what people say they're embarrassed to do. So as James says, we just sort of have a conversation with them, and a part of that conversation, why do you think you've been targeted? And then you can subtly bring out aspects in that conversation. So it's just good communication skills, and giving people the space and time to reflect on that, because it is hard to think I've been targeted because of my identity. It's a really big thing, I think, to come to terms with.
Most definitely, and we have lots of brochures and flyers here, and if you just want to lift that one up for us, and you can actually, you know, is this your number here that you can contact us? No,
yes.
It's a free phone number, is it?
Yes. So this service, known as the Stop Hate Line, operates in areas where we're funded for it to help. So we encourage those areas to put this poster up in their local centres, even if they take those reports directly themselves, because they're often busy or not open 24 hours. So all the publicity that's with the red featured in red is around that service, and we are slowly expanding across more areas of the country. But the other service is the Stop Learning Disability Hate Crime helpline, which operates the same way, the same 8 ways, 24 hours a day, and that's across England and Wales. So that's a really good thing, because we don't have to worry about, oh, you're not in our area.
Yeah.
It's England, unless you're outside of England and Wales, of course, but that's funded by the Ministry of Justice.
Right.
So that's a slightly different service.
I think it's really important, because learning disability, it's a disability that people can't see most of the time. And I think it's very, very underreported as well
Absolutely, yeah.
with regards to learning disabilities. But it's so vital that we get that out there as well,
yeah.
isn't it?
Well, we hope that people will use this as to have conversations with people with a learning disability, and might be being exploited by their friends, and they don't necessarily see it as fitting into this sort of hate crime agenda. So this is really, it's a poster, but it's really to have that conversation to say, is this happening to you?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Actually, I think like with the helpline, we talk a lot about obviously speaking to victims directly, but you know, through the helpline we do talk to a lot of professionals, a lot of people supporting people who might be victims of hate crime, a lot of witnesses, family members, and carers as well. And I think it's just as good a support for people like that as well, when we provide independent advice and information to people, and like Rose was saying, kind of start having those conversations about what is actually happening and where you can go to for support.
And these resources are really to help to assist those conversations, because too often people think that if you need a police response or a housing response, they don't know what else there is to do, but there's so many other services that come into contact with people. This is not a criminal justice agenda. This is anybody who comes across, who works with people, who can have a conversation around what is actually happening to them. Because if people won't go to the police, they're possibly talking to their GP, to their support worker, to their psychotherapist, or all different sorts of people, where they pay their rent, anywhere they could be having those conversations. So we really kind of push the fact that this should be promoted wherever people go, and use it to have those conversations. It's not, don't think it's somebody else's agenda. It's our agenda.
It's for the community.
Absolutely.
That's what it is, and I think. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? It's helping your community to target, you know, the hate crime and bullying and stigma, and I think that's the best way to do it. Thank you so much. And it's wonderful to be here again, and they do so much work, and you know, if anyone would like to, you know, help them out in any way regarding fundraising or volunteering even, please feel free to contact them.